Hello and welcome everyone to the very first technical session on Codeology. Now, before starting, let's calibrate my teaching expectations and your learning expectations. So, basically, my aim is to teach anyone and everyone on this planet, even outside the planet. I don't doesn't really matter. So, it doesn't matter which background you are coming from, you've been to school, you've not been to school, you know math, you don't know math, doesn't matter. Let's break the stereotype together. You can learn anything. So, without any further ado, let's get started with the very first video. Now, we are technologists, we are engineers, we are people who work with tech, we are the tech savvy people. So, what is our baby? A computer. So, today's bite sized session will be dedicated on how a computer works in general, not specific. And at the very high level, at the bird's eye view, how does a computer work? Today we'll be seeing that. So, this is your computer. There are three main units. Input output unit. So basically in school you might have studied there is a monitor, it's an output device. There is a speaker, it's an output device. There is a keyboard, it's an input device. There is a microphone, it's an input device. But those are childish definitions. We comprise everything into one unit which is called as an input output unit or an IO unit. So we'll keep it right here. Input output unit, then comes the memory unit where the data is stored. Why do we need memory? We need to work upon numbers, so we need to store them, right? Let's say I have a calculator, I do 2 plus 2, and at the moment I press equal to, the initial two twos have to be stored somewhere, right? And even the result, which is 4, has to be stored. So that's why memory is required. Now, that in that 2 plus 2, the plus was the operation. Who does that? The processor. Now the processor does the operations, memory holds the operands. How are they coordinated? How does the processor know when to access which memory location and what to do with it, and where to store the result, and etc, etc. Then comes the control unit. Inside the processor there are three main units. Right now I will only tell one, which is control unit. So control unit is the brain. It decides which operation will be performed on which operand at which time and which location the result will be stored. That is the overview. Now let's get half a level deeper. So this is the computer, input output unit, memory unit, processor, central processing unit. Now, how are they interconnected? How do they communicate? They communicate via buses. Now, buses, I don't mean literal buses. You might have seen a printed circuit board, a green colored printed circuit board. The lines that you see in there, the copper lines, those are called buses. Our buses are nothing but wires, but embedded on a chip. So, buses are of three types. One is address bus, which carries the address. Let's say the processor wants the data stored in the location 1234. So it will send the address to the memory through an address bus, and the address bus is always unidirectional. The memory can't send addresses to the processor. Only the processor can send addresses to the memory, and once the memory gets the address, it fetches the particular data in that address, the block of the address, and it gives it to the processor. Now data bus is bidirectional. Data flows both directions. Even between the processor and the input output, the data flows. And the third type of bus is control bus. Control bus carries the control signals. It coordinates all of the components, the memory, the processor, the input output. It coordinates between them and triggers actions and also interrupts actions. So basically, to sum up everything we've learned till now, there's a computer, there are three main units: input output unit, memory unit, central processing unit. The central processing unit has three parts, out of which one is control unit. Input output unit and the processor are connected through buses. The processor and the memory are connected through buses, but the memory and the input output are never connected. Why? You have a folder inside a folder inside a folder, and you don't want the content inside it to be leaked out without your permission, right? So there is no direct interaction between the memory and the input output. So those are the three components connected through buses. Buses are of three types: data bus, address bus, control bus. Address bus is unidirectional. The processor sends the address command to the memory, then memory through the processor sends the address command through the address bus. The data is fetched with the data bus. Data is bidirectional, address is unidirectional. Once the data is received, it does the operations, and who decides which operations to do? Programs, and the programs are executed by the control unit. So once the data is processed, we output it, we do whatever we want with it with the control signals. So that would be all about this video. I'll attach 2 diagrams after the end of this video, and you can go through it, and I hope and I'm pretty dead sure that you will understand. So this was our very first video, so thank you and namaste. Thank you so much for your love.